This is a recording where I'm going to demonstrate how to remove unwanted spots from a piece of calligraphy. As you can see, I was working on this piece and my automatic pen made 2 drops of ink. And I have 2 choices at this point. One, I can either just start over again, or I can try and fix it. And the way we're going to fix it is using a double-edged razor blade. They're very flexible, they're very sharp, so you have to be careful. But what we're actually going to do is, holding the razor blade between 2 fingers in one hand, the thumb and a finger, we're going to create a bend in the razor blade, and we're going to actually try and shave off the upper surface of the paper. It works particularly well with gouache because gouache doesn't sink into the paper. And if the paper is particularly thin, it's always a bit of a risk, but this is watercolor paper. Requires a little bit of patience. There's no hurry here. I can see that the Sumi ink has sunk into the paper just a little bit. This spot is a little bit difficult. But it's certainly a lot better than it was. And this spot should be a little more difficult to remove because it's so big, but let's see what happens. I think the important thing is to just not lose your patience and to go slowly. If you're getting tired or frustrated, it's best to stop. But we're just cutting off, shaving off the top level of the paper in as thinnest slice as possible. The thing you have to be careful is not to slice your fingers. Single edge blades are extremely flexible, and they're sharp on both sides. Actually, I've been calling this a single edge blade. This is a double edge blade. It is very important to make sure that the ink is dried before you start. Otherwise, you're going to just smear the ink. Let me get a brush to brush some of this mess away. Let us see where we are. All right, we're making progress. But the spots that are remaining are because the Sumi ink sank deeper into the paper. Gouache doesn't sink quite so deeply into the paper. And it is going to change the surface of the paper because we're also slicing away whatever size may have been included in the manufacturing process. But fortunately, there's a way of kind of bringing the paper back to its original state in terms of absorbency. But even though this may not always work, it's a good practice, it's a good exercise, and it beats the alternative of simply giving up early in the process because there is always that possibility of salvaging the work. With good paper that's thick, it works pretty well. It will work on parchment, but that's one of the reasons that we're counseled not to use ink on parchment, but to use gouache, just because the gouache will sit on the surface of the paper or the parchment just a little bit better than ink, which tends to soak into the paper. But this is working pretty well. Just important not to get impatient. And the first big place not to get impatient is while you're waiting for the ink to dry. This has been drying for a couple of hours already, because there's just no way that I wanted the ink to smear. Okay. So, and there you have it, using just an old-fashioned double-edged razor blade. You can remove these sorts of little errors. And for instance, I can see that I have a couple of little ink dots that were splattered from the pen. They're very small. And they are quite easy to remove because they're really just sitting on top of the paper. And the movement that you make in order to do this is not a scooping movement, but more of a slicing movement. We're just slicing the top layer of the paper. We're not scooping, we're not digging it out. We're cutting off as little of the top layer of the paper as possible. But you can see that when we're done, looks like we've done a pretty good job here. And I'm going to continue with this project because I was able to successfully cut out these mistakes. Now, the other issue that we have is how do we bring the paper back a little bit to its original nap? And I'll show you that right now too. In order to bring the paper back to its original nap, to kind of repair the damage that we've done by slicing off the top layer, we're going to use a bone folder. And we're going to put it in, we're going to take a piece of paper and just kind of rub the area that we were working on through a piece of paper using the bone folder. And this sort of brings up the nap on the paper again. And there we go. This error, this little mistake has been repaired, and we can continue with the project.